The federal investigation into Donald Trump developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity. That is verbatim what former Special Prosecutor Jack Smith said under oath today before the House Judiciary Committee. And this hearing's a big deal because it marks Smith's first public appearance to defend his two attempts to criminally prosecute Trump for his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election and the handling of classified documents. And Smith, he's been under a gag order from a Trump-appointed judge that prevents him from discussing major elements of the documents case, which is why lawmakers largely avoided talking about the details of the probe. And so there were a lot of things discussed during the hours-long hearing, with testimony actually still happening while I'm finishing up recording. But one of the main overarching themes was whether Smith's investigations were politically motivated or whether he had hard evidence that Trump committed crimes. And so you had Republicans trying to paint the investigations as out-of-control political campaigns that were part of a broader effort to weaponize the DOJ against Trump ahead of the 2024 election, whereas you then had Democrats largely using the hearing to give Smith a public stage to defend his inquiries as legitimate and lay out Trump's alleged criminal actions in the cases that were shut down after he was reelected. And this is all very high stakes for Smith, right? Trump has made it very, very clear that he thinks Smith is one of his biggest political enemies, and Smith has said that he believes that the president is looking for any chance to investigate and prosecute it. Right in his opening statement, you had Smith delivering powerful remarks that quickly went viral, Smith fervently defending his investigations, claiming that he and his team followed DOJ policies and observed legal requirements, and argued that his actions were based entirely on facts and law, not political motivations.
President Trump was charged because the evidence established that he willfully broke the law, the very laws he took an oath to uphold. Rather than accept his defeat in the 2020 election, President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results and prevent the lawful transfer of power. After leaving office in January of 21, President Trump illegally kept classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago social club and repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. As I testify before the committee today, I want to be clear. I stand by my decisions as special counsel, including the decision to bring charges against President Trump. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one should be above the law in this country, and the law required that he be held to account, so that is what I did. To have done otherwise on the facts of these cases would have been to shirk my duties as a prosecutor and as a public servant.
And something you saw throughout the hearing were Republicans trying to control the narrative, making a wide range of sweeping allegations and implications, and at times using unproven, misleading, or just outright false allegations about Smith and the outcome of the 2020 election. Or with members also repeatedly peppering Smith with rapid-fire questions and then cutting him off when he attempted to respond. Whereas with the Democrats, you largely had them focusing on giving Smith that public platform to defend himself as an independent actor who was just doing his job and following the facts. And so you had multiple Democrats repeatedly asking Smith if he was pressured by Biden or anyone in his administration to launch the investigations into Trump in order to target a perceived political enemy or sway the 2024 election. And time again, you had Smith responding no, saying that he always acted independently and came to the decision to bring charges on his own accord based on the overwhelming evidence. And that was something you saw Smith reiterate during his notable exchange with Representative Ted Lieu.
Or anyone in the Biden White House ever direct you to seek retribution against anyone perceived to be Biden's political opponent?
No.
Did the Biden administration or President Biden or anyone in the White House ever write a social media post directing you to seek retribution against any particular individual?
No.
Did President Biden or anyone else in the Biden White House ever direct you to take any prosecutorial step whatsoever?
No.
With Lieu then going on to note that those are all things that Trump has done publicly, arguing that it's ironic that Republicans are trying to claim that Smith was at the center of a broad conspiracy to weaponize the DOJ to go after Biden's opponents when that is exactly what Trump is doing. A point that Trump himself only affirmed by going to Truth Social and posting during the hearing where he literally said he hopes Attorney General Pam Bondi is investigating Smith, who he also called a deranged animal. Also during the hearing, when asked about Trump's repeated threats against him, you had Smith giving this response.
The statements are meant to intimidate me. I will not be intimidated. I think these statements are also made as a warning to others what will happen if they stand up. And I am, as I say, I'm not going to be intimidated. We did our work pursuant to department policy. We followed the facts and we followed the law, and that process resulted in proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed serious crimes. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen because he's threatening me.
But beyond that, we also saw Democrats spending a lot of time trying to prove that Trump knew that he lost the election and incited the insurrection because of it, which is notable because Smith would have had to prove that Trump had intent in order to secure a conviction against him if the case had gone to trial. And there you saw Smith repeatedly saying that his investigation found, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Trump knew his election fraud claims were false. He privately acknowledged so, but he still took illegal measures to overturn the election and then incited an insurrection when his attempts failed. And with that, you had Smith saying, based on his interpretation of the law, he believed that he had enough evidence to secure a conviction against Trump, and he repeated this line numerous times throughout the hearing.
Our investigation revealed that Donald Trump is the person who caused January 6th, that it was foreseeable to him, and that he sought to exploit the violence.
And also during a line of questioning about what would happen to American democracy if a president is not held accountable for trying to steal an election, Smith responded with a dire warning.
My belief is that if we do not hold the most powerful people in our society to the same standards of the rule of law, it can be catastrophic. I think if we don't hold people to account when they commit crimes, it sends a message that those crimes are okay, that our society accepts that. I believe that if we don't call people to account when they commit crimes in this context, it can endanger our election process, it can endanger election workers, and ultimately our democracy.
But of course, we're talking about this a year into Trump's second presidency, and that second presidency has also ended Smith's probe, and so it seems unlikely that he'll ever be held accountable for his attempts to overturn the election. But then also, one of the big questions getting thrown around with this hearing is, will Trump be able to pull something out of Smith's testimony that he can use to go after him? Because that's exactly what he tried to do with James Comey. I mean, he had a loyalist prosecutor charge the former FBI director with making false statements in a testimony that he gave to the Senate. And while many legal experts say that the charges against Comey and Trump's other enemies, they're bogus, the fact of the matter remains that you have the president itching for something that he can use against Smith. And so for now, whether there's really any basis for it or not, it really feels like more of a when he goes after Smith, not an if